Hi, everybody, and welcome back to The Power of Personality. Today, we're talking about amiables. And in our last episode, we talked about drivers. And drivers just have a tendency to steamroll right over the top of amiables. Why is that?
Yes, pretty much drivers eat amiables for lunch.
Uh-oh.
Just so you know, amiables, so you guys got to toughen up a little bit, right? The reason being is because amiables are your Mother Teresas of the world, right? They're your caretakers. They're great listeners. They thrive in a team environment because they love people because they're emotionally based like expressives, right?
We love amiables. Everyone needs amiables in their life.
Every amiable that I know on this planet, everybody loves them. Nobody has
peacemakers.
Yeah, nobody has anything bad to say about every amiable that I know, right? Us expressives, on the other hand, it's 6 in one hand, half a dozen in the other, right? The amiables, everybody loves them, and you know why? It's because they avoid conflict like the plague. Bless their hearts, but they do, which allows everyone to love them, right? But they are some of the greatest people in the world. Again, great caretakers. They're great listeners. They thrive in a team environment. But drivers eat them for lunch because drivers are just like, they don't respect that almost because they're polar opposites, right? The driver is not going to care about the little cuddly thing, life or the animal, whatever, right? But the amiable is, but the driver's like, get rid of it, let's move on, right? Well, the amiable's over here trying to save its life. Maybe that's a little far-fetched, but that's the best example I can come up with right now.
But interestingly, since we often marry our polar opposites,
yes.
So drivers often are attracted to amiables, and then we try to change people after we marry them.
Yes, and the amiables to drivers, and logically it makes sense because drivers will drive and amiables will acquiesce and just kind of go with the flow and are mostly okay with being told what to do. So in theory, it works. But sometimes it's too much. And same thing with expressives and analyticals, right? You know, the expressive is the emotionally based, fast decision maker, and your analytical is your logically based, slow decision maker, driving the expressive up the wall because they're too busy overanalyzing and researching something and can't make a decision to save their life. Not that they can't, it just takes them much longer than, again, an expressive and a driver because they're fast decision makers and they're slow decision makers.
So an amiable is a slower decision maker.
Correct. They are on the ask directive assertive side of the quadrants, where the right side is the tell directive. So the ask side are your analyticals and your amiables, right? But I believe the amiables are on the bottom or top because they're emotionally based, not logically based, right? So they love people.
So emotionally based.
Correct.
So how can our friends who are not amiables tell and detect who the amiables are in their life?
Well, usually an amiable, they're very soft-spoken. Right, that's usually a key indicator that they are amiable.
And very agreeable.
They're very agreeable. Again, they avoid confrontation, and they're just very nice and just pleasant to be around. It's very easy to identify them.
Very easygoing.
Yes, very easygoing, and just all around great people. The one challenge that I personally have with amiables, though, is they will not confront you, and they will not tell you exactly what you need to hear because they don't want to hurt your feelings. Bless their hearts, right? So that's an area where an amiable can grow, is to learn to be more direct and tell somebody what they need to hear versus what they want to hear. Because you don't grow when you're being told what you want to hear. You grow when you're being told what you need to hear so that you can make some progress.
Absolutely. So for those of us who are not amiables, when we are working with an amiable, we need to respect the fact that they are emotionally based, respect the fact that they are slower decision makers, and again, asking lots and lots of questions so we can help guide that amiable to make a great decision for them. Not for us, but for them.
Yes, and what's key with the amiables when it comes to decision making is they make decisions based off of approval. So it's yeah, that's a big deal. So it's our job to find out where the approval source comes from.
Oh, that is so key.
Is it the spouse? Is it the mother-in-law? Is it the younger sister? Is it the dad? Whatever that looks like, once we identify that in real estate, then we can involve that person through the process so that we're not showing them the same house over and over again. We want to bring that person with them so we can make minimal trips to the intended destination.
Absolutely, or even for a doctor to try to work on an amiable patient and convince them that they need to have a mandatory life-saving surgery. They're not going to make that decision without getting the approval of that significant person. So the sooner we can figure out who that person is, the better.
Absolutely. To get them to move them forward and help them make a decision, we have to identify who that person is.
And once you do identify who that person is, then how do you navigate those waters?
Well, here's an example when it comes to buying a house. Let's say I'm working with an amiable buyer, and I will ask once I know they're amiable, I always ask them, is there somebody in your life whose opinion that you really value? They're like, yes. And I would ask them, and you often go to them when making the decisions, a big decision, they say yes. And I'm like, who is that person? Oh, it's my younger sister. Perfect. Does your younger sister live here? She's like, actually, she does. I go, wouldn't it be great if your younger sister actually came with us? So as we were walking through these homes, you can actually talk to her and get her opinion as well while you're both are there, versus trying to coordinate later or calling and asking questions. But to have her there in that environment, because proximity is power, to help you with that decision-making process, you would probably feel comfortable with that, wouldn't you? Well, of course. Okay, so then you just incorporate them.
Absolutely.
Great, let's get her on the phone. What's her schedule like?
Right.
So that's really
involve her in the process from start to finish.
Yes, that's with home buying. Home selling, it's a little bit different. So, but once you get that person involved, man, it speeds up the process tremendously.
Absolutely, and it's less frustrating for everyone else in that person's life who is not an amiable. Any last thoughts on being more versatile when working with an amiable?
Well, just be mindful that it is an amiable. So amiables, again, they're ask, directive, assertive. So you can't close and you can't push on an amiable. Same thing with an analytical. You have to respect their space and you have to respect their comfort level. If they feel like you're being pushy and you're moving them faster along than they want to go, they will immediately shut down. And so pay attention to the body language. The nervous system will always tell you what a person's thinking or how they react, but the way they respond. And so you can't push on an amiable. Respect their sensitive nature. Ask really good questions. Get to the source of the approval, and then you can effectively move them forward and help them accomplish their goal and objective.
Fantastic advice, Kiko. Awesome. So we have one more personality type to share with you tomorrow, and that is the analytic.
Yes,
Yay.
your analyticals.
Yeah, absolutely. So come back tomorrow and we will finish it out by sharing with you that fourth personality type and help you understand how to work with the analyticals in your life.